It has been my kind privilege to introduce Professor Emilio Nuzzolese, sir, to our audience. Professor Emilio Nuzzolese, sir, is a forensic odontologist, currently serving as an associate professor in legal medicine at the University of Turin, Italy, and head of Human Identification Laboratory, Medico Legal Institute of Turin as well. He also serves as an honorary judge at juvenile courts. He has graduated in dentistry from the University of Bari, Italy in 1994 and holds a postgraduate degree in legal medicine, forensic science, and forensic odontology and research, doctorate degree in analytical morphometry. He served as an expert witness in civil and penal court for dental disputes and professional liability, and an expert before the International Penal Court as well. He has associative involvements, which include participating as an odontologist in the Interpol DVI Forensic Odontology Sub-Working Group since 2010. He is also president and founder of the Civil Protection Association Dental Team, DVI Europe, and the co-founder of Forensic Odontology for Human Rights as well. He is a fellow of Odontology section of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences since 2011. He has presented over 100 papers in national and international forensic science meetings and journals, and has been invited as a speaker in several congresses in Italy and abroad, which includes Canada, Indonesia, India, Hungary, Nepal, Romania, US, and UK as well, among which the Forensic Dentistry session of the 2006 FDI World Dental Congress in Shenzhen is one of it. I welcome you, sir, to this platform, and we hand over the session to you now.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming out to deliver the important topic that is a maltreatment, border control, relations, and minor migrant. I hand over session to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjit, and thank you, Dr. Arti. I would like to thank also the International the International Association of Scientists and Researchers for organizing this international conference and for allowing us to be part of this program, and also for incorporating this very important aspect of forensics, which is humanitarian forensics. And for this reason, also the idea of collaborating with the Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights, it's the best way to face this issue, because once we start working for the administration of justice, offering our skills and competences to the legal system, we have to consider always that we are not just performing a technical work. We are dealing with human beings. We are dealing with lives. We are dealing with so many issues related to vulnerable people. And this is the reason why this workshop on vulnerable was proposed and is part of this training session. And I'm happy that I have to start with it, because one of the things we have to start is to understand the definition of vulnerable people. As you will see, I have taken the definitions from the United Nations, and to this regard, the workshop itself, although it will offer a broad view of what we can offer in sharing our expertise to protect the vulnerable, we actually cannot address all the concerns and the issues which are to be considered when we are involved in vulnerable, in protecting the vulnerable, applying best standards in forensics. So first of all, let's try to understand, let's define the border of our workshop. The workshop is related to vulnerable, but we will not be able to address all the concerns of the people who are vulnerable, because vulnerable people are people of African descendants, and they are women. They can be LGBTQI plus, which are criminalized in some countries. They are people who live in poverty, and they should be supported and not excluded by our society. They are refugees, asylum seekers, and internally displaced people who are one of the targets of our involvement in forensics from the point of view of assessing, as we will see, the age and the identity. Then we have the migrants, a migrant, which is a phenomenon that it has always been part of humanity. Migrants are part of humanity. People migrate from one country to another country. It is a phenomenon that it has always been in place. Currently, we are facing this phenomenon because being Italian, I am involved as other countries around the border of the Mediterranean Sea. I am involved in facing this issue because among the various phenomena of migration, we have the phenomenon of receiving migrants trying to achieve Europe through the Mediterranean Sea. Then we have the minorities of several group populations, like Roma, Sinti, travelers, who should not be discriminated. Then we have the indigenous people who have to be respected. So all these let's say categories or groups that I have described using the pictures and the definitions from the United Nations website. If we want to go on what we as odontologists can offer in terms of working for the best administration of practice, is the first issue is related to age estimation. Why age estimation? Because in focusing on refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants, one of the issues that is extremely fundamental in order to respect the dignity and the rights of a child is to assess the age in order to understand and determine if you are a minor or if you are an adult. Now, from this point of view, worldwide, in Europe, as in any other country in the world, there is no uniform approach to age estimation. There are colleagues who are against the use of radiology. There are countries that use huge radiology, even TC scan, to assess the age. There are countries that perform a psychological and cognitive interview to assess the age. Now, independently from the methods that will be used, let's try to understand the definition of what is age estimation, because age estimation is a wide process which aims to try to assess a chronological age, which of course is impossible. There is no scientific method that can determine the exact date of birth of a person. But what we need from the judicial point of view is a date of birth, because in order to issue an ID document, we need a name, we need a surname, and we need a date of birth. And already in this definition, in order to hold rights, generally speaking, you need to have an ID, which means name, surname, and date of birth. And already in this preliminary definition, you understand the importance of giving a name to a person, alive or dead, and the importance of giving an age to a person. So as forensic experts, we cannot determine the chronological age, but we arrive to a chronological age assessing the biological age, which of course is another challenging process, because we need to achieve this value, this data, using multiple methods and multiple analysis. Of course, we will combine this analysis, which are related to the biological age and the bone age and the dental age, with other evaluations related to psychosocial, cognitive interviews and other physical maturity of a person. So the other related issue, which is to be considered among the vulnerable people, is the registration of a date of birth. When we have to face the challenge of illegal migrants, usually migrants who try to cross the borders, by definition, they have no ID documents. So they travel without any ID documents. And in particular, minors who claim to be minors. So migrants who claim to be minors, they will say, I am a minor, I'm a minor, I am 16, I'm 17. And to some regard, sometimes they know their date of birth, but there are also other issues related to the fact that hundreds of children coming from Africa do not know their date of birth, because their date of birth has never been registered. Because we think, we're living in our society, that once we are born, what our parent goes to the birth registration office and record our name and our date of birth, even with our with the time of birth. Now, this is not something that is regularly happening in most countries in Africa, for example. And this is one of the concerns of UNICEF, for example, to register the date of birth. And this is something that is also respected and highlighted by the Convention on the Rights of the Child, because the definition we have in our mind is that you are a minor if you are under 18, and you are an adult if you are over 18. And of course, this is basically also established in all our national legal systems, and is also addressed by the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So a child means every human being who is under 18. So the age of 18 is so important when we have to assess and address a process, a judicial process to a migrant who has no ID documents. Because there is a huge difference in the management, in the treatment, and in the directions that the judicial direction that a minor or an adult take when somebody is crossing a border without an ID document. So we have already two issues. We have the issues of children or minors who do not have their date of birth registered. So when they cross borders, not only they don't have ID document, but they have been they've been violated in their right of having the date of birth registered. And without a date of birth, you cannot issue any ID document. On the other side, you have the minors who are under 18, who have to receive protection and have to receive support from the hosting country, independently from the reason that brought these minors to cross the borders. All these conventions are incorporated by national codes. So even if this is a convention on the rights of the child, all countries, Europe as well as other countries, have incorporated these conventions in their own national legislation. So one thing is a refugee, another status is asylum seeker, and another status is economic migrant, who migrate because they want to look or want to find a better economic situations. Now, these issues are relevant when we are dealing with an adult person, but they are irrelevant when we deal with a minor, because independently from the reason behind migration, a minor migrant who is without an accompanying adult, and for this reason is also defined unaccompanied minor migrant, will receive a totally different management and protection and treatment from the hosting country. To give you an example of my country, the Italian legal system has several specific rules and norms related to the presence of unaccompanied minor migrants. To give you an example, first of all, they cannot be put to a detection and they cannot be expelled from the country. While we have migrants who could be expelled from Italy because they don't have any specific condition that allow them to receive an international protection, for example. On the other hand, if you are a minor, independently from the reason that brought you to Europe, you have the right to stay, and you have the right to receive a resident permit. And you have also the right to receive education and also medical treatments, and also to be put in a safe place, to receive custody in a center or a family, and also have a legal guardian who is an adult who will be responsible for the minor. And I've been acting as a legal guardian from 2017 until January this year. And that was a volunteering work done to protect the minors, because the minor doesn't have, being a minor, doesn't have the capacity of performing juridic acts, specific juridic acts. That's why they need to have an adult who takes the responsibility of deciding some aspects, for example, medical treatment, the issue of ID documents, and give, for example, the informed consent in any treatment related to the child. Now, what is so important, our forensic expertise in this area of vulnerable people? It is so important because it will be, you will see from the other slides of this presentation that the dental method that we apply to assess, first of all, the biological age, and then we convert it in chronological age, This assessment is so extremely relevant when we have to determine if you are a minor or if you are an adult. Try to imagine the mistake of assessing a minor as an adult and what consequences this can give to the violations of the rights of the minors, of the child, compared to the rights of an adult. And this is one of the also protection considered by the Geneva Convention, where there is in Article 33 the prohibition of expulsion or refoulement. This means that you cannot cannot be pushed back at the border. You cannot be repatriated. You cannot have a detention, and you cannot stay in a center or any accommodation with adults. So this already gives you the idea of how important will be the forensic assessment of the age, because the age assessment cannot rely only on what the migrant declares, cannot rely only on a psychological interview, although, as I said at the beginning, there is no uniform way of assessing age at the moment. And I do not think it will be easy to achieve a uniform way of assessing the age of a minor or an adult. I don't think that we will ever achieve that. So what is it this age estimation process? First of all, we have to consider the physical appearance. So the sexual characteristics, primary and secondary sex characteristics, the weight and height of the person, the perimeter of the thoracic and abdomen, and the other aspects related to the general somatic development, which is, of course, related to the growth. And consider that we have, of course, puberty, we have adolescence, we have group population differences in terms of growth. We have genetic factors which condition and influence the development and growth of a person. And we also have environmental factors like nutrition and socio-economic status that can speed or slow down the growth of a person. For sure, we have some basic principles which can be assessed and can be analyzed when we consider the growth of a person. And of course, the ossification nuclei, which appear on certain areas of our body already from 7 years, then the relation from 10 years old onwards between the epiphysis and the diaphysis of the metacarpals and phalanges of the hand. And also what is mostly important is the epiphyseal ossification over 12 years old and after 12 years old. And this is the reason why one of the districts that we analyze to assess the age is the wrist of the non-writing hand. Wrist and hand. Then we have, of course, we can use the multisegmental X-rays of joints of body. Then we have also elbow and knee as joints as one of the methods that we could use. One of them incorporates the maturation of the clavicle. We could also consider the cranial sutures and the sutures of the maxilla, for example. Now, there are several methods. Various methods are also have been analyzed and have been proposed by researchers for non-specific forensic reasons. We need to understand the biological age and the growth of a person for several other reasons, independently from a forensic goal. In our dental clinic, we are, for example, aware of the fact that if we need to perform an orthodontic treatment and you are in the puberty or around the puberty age, we need to assess what is the peak area of your growth in order to apply a functional orthodontic treatment in the best time of your growth and not too late or not too early. So there are several reasons behind this need of assessing the age. From a forensic point of view, in what I've just said related to the distinction between the juvenile code and rights and the adult, it's easy for us to understand that in that view, from a medical legal point of view, it is so relevant to understand if you are an adult or a minor, and the threshold, the cutoff age is 18. But since all methods have a margin of error, the process of assessing the age must be multidisciplinary, because each method has a margin of error, and we need to achieve a wide view of the age through a process which must be multidisciplinary and holistic. So we will find the countries where you do an X-ray of the clavicle, an X-ray of the chest. There will be a pediatric and a psychological visit. And there will be countries, including Italy, where in borderline cases, which means you are around 18, maybe you are just over 18, maybe you are even 19, or you are 17. So in this age from 17 to 19, that's the most critical and challenging situation when you have to assess if the person is a minor or not. And to this regard, dental and ontological assessment is actually giving the best solution at the moment. We already did far back in 2006, then we published in 2008, together with Professor Di Vella, we proposed to the court in Bari, in the south of Italy, we proposed a forensic dental investigations to perform an age assessment of asylum seekers using the clavicle, the wrist of the non-writing hand, and the panoramic X-ray, in order to use 3 different methods and then achieve a final expert opinion on the age of a minor. Now, I will show you a very quick list of dental methods which we use in this regard, but can be used also in other areas. For example, we use it for medical orthodontic treatment, as I said, but they can be used also in archaeological context to assess the age of human remains. And they are also used in the forensic context to achieve the biological profile of unidentified human remains in order to start the process of reconstructive identification of unidentified persons. With regards with minor or adulthood, the wisdom teeth mineralization is definitely at the moment the best way to understand and assess if you are an adult or a minor, because from 17 to 20 years old, the wisdom teeth are the only anatomical area of our body that that can be assessed in terms of variations and modifications, and can be also observed objectively through the X-ray of this district. So we have different stages, and you know, like me, that we have the development stages of TIF, where you can access so many stages and obtain an evaluation. So we have methods like Krauss and Jordan with 10 stadiums related to the deciduous TIF, the Shower and Masler Atlas, which was updated by the London Atlas, which is probably one of the most distributed poster that you may see in dental clinics, because it was so important in the area of orthodontics and orthodontic treatments. The Morse and al, you can see clearly the differences in the 14 stadiums that allow us to achieve an evaluation of the age, the Demijan, Goldstein, Tanner, and then the Demijan of 1976 with the age stages of maturations, which is one of the methods that we still use in combination with other methods in order to assess if you are a minor or an adult. The NOLA with same stadiums for each tooth, the Harris and Nortier related always to the third molar, inferior molar with 5 stages. The London Atlas, which is a review and with a wider sample of the time of eruption of teeth, which is being proposed as for dentistry, not specifically for forensic dentistry. And even an Italian colleague from Turin, Portigliatti and Robetti, already in 1982, were proposed in a paper that probably you never found out in the literature because it is in Italian, and I doubt that you ever had the chance to read this article 1982, which I was able to find in Turin, and to give you the importance of how forensic odontologists were actually involved in age estimation. It is not something that we are pushing in the last 20 years. It is something that goes back, definitely goes back in history. Also, 2007, the stages. But to go back to the importance and to the need of objectivity, or at least the most objectivity as possible, we need to consider that the best way to assess if you're a minor or an adult cannot ignore the maturation of the third molar. And this is the reason why the most used method, even in our Medical Legal Institute, is the method proposed by Roberto Cameriere, because you actually have an objective assessment performed on panoramic using and evaluating the apex distance of a third molar and the length of the third molar. This is just one of the pictures of one of his papers. So age estimation is one of the most important aspects when we have to protect the vulnerable, and when we consider vulnerable the minors. And age estimation is not only an issue of migrants, it is also an issue of displaced people, the Sinti, the Roma people. They need to be assessed. And the assessment of age is also extremely important when migrants commit crimes. So it's not only a problem of giving an ID document, is also that there is a huge difference in a minor committing a crime in respect to an adult committing the same crime, because the juvenile court, for example, manages and treats crimes performed by minors in a totally different way. And sometimes you need to assess. And to give you an idea of the extreme differences in how you have to evaluate a crime is when you consider the age of a minor committing a penal crime. Now, if we consider that a minor who is less than 14 years old, a minor who is a child benefit from imputability. He cannot be considered guilty. If a child under 14 years old commits a crime, the imputability is completely different, because the imputability of a child under 14 is not considered by the legal system. So imagine how important it can be, the age assessment. And in order to maximize and achieve the best assessment, which is what we usually refer to best practices in age estimation, considering the importance of analyzing the maturity of a third molar, this gives to forensic odontology the need to be always included in the age estimation of, in this case, unaccompanied minor migrants. Now, this is just a quick view of how, for us odontologists, is so easy to immediately understand the age, especially when we are in a situation with a mixed dentition, like deciduous and permanent teeth. We don't need, in this case, to perform any specific method to assess the age. It is very easy for a dentist, independently from any forensic background and training. It is very easy to assess that this child cannot be an adult. This child has the deciduous teeth, so most probably is around 11 or 12. Here again, another case of another panoramic that gives us the immediate perception that this person is around 9 to 10 years old, because he has only the first and central incisors, upper and lower. This can be a little bit more challenging, but again, in this case, we don't have any third inferior molar, but you can easily see the upper third molar, which are not mature. So even in this case, even if we do not perform any dental age estimation, we have a wisdom tooth which is not even started the maturation of the roots, for example. Different situation where we have a third molar, which is already, like here, developed. And of course, in this case, we are most probably in a patient, in a subject who is over 18. Now, considering that we have ethical aspects to be respected, we have the conventions that we need to respect, and we have to give the benefit of the doubt that the person could be a minor, because it is more important, one important aspect is assess an adult as a minor is a mistake completely different to the mistake of assessing a minor as an adult, because a minor should not be accommodated, should not be placed in a center, in a community, in a place where there are adults. So to this regard, all methods we apply, usually, generally speaking, have always a little underestimation compared to the real chronological age. So there is no risk if we apply methods and if we work on a multidisciplinary approach and holistic approach, there is no risk that a minor is addressed and assessed as an adult. It is the real risk is only the other way round. The only risk that we have is to assess a minor who is chronologically an adult. But this is accepted because the idea of being an adult or a minor is not only a number, like Roberto Cameriere says. The age is not only a number, because the concept of childhood is also related to the trauma, to the psychological trauma that a minor migrant, even if he's just become an adult, has faced arriving, trying to cross the borders. And also don't forget that there is a difference between a biological age and a chronological age, because the maturity of the teeth and bones can vary from a person to another person. That's why in this chapter, in this book on age estimation, edited by Joe Azzerias Garriga, together with Giancarlo Di Vella, we wrote a legal background chapter in this interesting book, and we concluded that the method that can achieve an age estimation is not only unique. There is no single method that can be applied in a trustable way, and that of course, when performing this assessment, we have to keep in mind that we have to respect the human rights of the child. We have to respect ethical aspects. We have to consider the narrative accounts of offered, discussed, presented by migrants. And this is why the physical assessment, as well as the medical and dental assessment, is only a part of a wider process of assessment. We are working in Turin with other colleagues from other countries, because we would like to achieve a method that gives us the opportunity to determine if you are an adult, and not just assess, but determine if you are an adult and not a migrant. Well, I have I would have gone on with other aspects related to the vulnerable, but I've seen that it's already 46 minutes that I've been speaking. So I will go in a couple of minutes just to give you an idea and a definition of another aspect where we are extremely useful as forensic experts, which is the human trafficking. The human trafficking, which is slavery, which is forced labor, which is child exploitation, forced prostitution, and even organ harvesting. So human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, and transfer of persons. They become slaves through the use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, or fraud. And these people are abused, and they are forced to work, or they are exploited, literally exploited. And it's a criminal act, and it is our role as experts to know about this aspect, and eventually being able to intercept and recognize victims of human trafficking. The reason why human trafficking is so relevant to us and is also connected to the concept and the process of age estimation of migrants, because human trafficking is strictly connected with illegal migration, although it is different from illegal migration, because human trafficking is not smuggling. And we are forensic experts. We have to consider that our work is incorporated in a judicial system and eventually in a proceeding in court. So we have to know what is our role within an investigation. We cannot simply offer a forensic expertise. We also need to have an understanding of the legal procedures that are behind in an investigation. This is the reason why, also from a legal point of view, we have to know the difference between smuggling, illegal migration, and human trafficking, as well as we need to know the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker or an economic migrant, because we need to know these differences, because our role cannot be considered apart from the broader role that we play within an investigation. And this is something that I am stressing in several other areas of forensic odontology, including bite mark analysis, for example. One of the limits that I see in some colleagues who are forensic expert is that they most probably are very, very well trained in a specific area of forensic odontology or forensic sciences, generally speaking, but sometimes I am disappointed to recognize that there is very low training or competences in law, in jurisprudence, in the legal responsibilities of our work in a wider proceeding. With that said, Dr. Ranjit, I would stop so that I do not go over my time, although I had other slide, but basically I think I've fulfilled my time. Maybe you want to allow colleagues who are attending, or actually there is something that I would like to say before you cut off, let's say, my microphone. Allow me, Dr. Ranjit, and
yes, sir, you can take more time, sir. We have no restriction of the time, so you can take sharing the knowledge is going to be very, very beneficial for all the participants.
Well, allow me to just give another reflection on what we're saying. And the reflection is strictly related to our role, again, of forensic experts. Now, you can be a forensic expert because you want to find a job, or because you want to work, or you can, or you may consider, like the colleagues involved in the Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights, maybe you can start considering your work not only from a technical point of view, but also from an ethical and a social point of view, because the social value of a forensic expert, it goes beyond the technical assessment in itself. And this is the reason why I find this workshop extremely, I hope it is extremely inspiring for you that are attending this workshop, because you have to consider that our work is strictly connected with ethical and human rights issues. And to this regard, the application of best standards in any forensic assessment is so important in the administration of justice. To give you an example, there are associations that defend the innocent people who have wrongly been convicted for a crime that they have never committed. This is the most important aspect of, and also a very clear example of how important is our role from an ethical and social and human rights point of view. Imagine a person who is innocent, who is convicted and is considered guilty of a crime, even an homicide, like we have seen in USA, and where we have the death row, don't forget. And this person is innocent. And when this case is reopened, and then there is a new forensic evaluation of the evidence which was already analyzed by previous experts, then you find out that the forensic analysis was wrong. And because of this wrong forensic analysis, that person was wrongly convicted. Now, this gives you the best example of how our role and is so relevant in the human rights aspect. And this is also an example that allows you to stress the importance of being extremely prudent when you do an assessment, and also to call and ask for the support of, let's say, colleagues with more experience, not only just training, more experience in a specific assessment, when this assessment is also inside an investigation. And to this regard, the Association Forensic Odontology for Human Rights is an association that today is the biggest and the largest association inside the area of humanitarian forensics and humanitarian forensic odontology. And I'm very happy to inform you, you probably already know, that we are organizing in Turin the second biennial symposium on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of October. And I like also the idea of informing you about two workshops. One involves the speakers of this workshop, Dr. Untoro, Dr. Pandey, and Dr. Singh, and myself, and Dr. Benthaus from Germany. We will address a humanitarian forensic odontology workshop free in the morning of the 12th of October. There will be a dental age estimation workshop in the afternoon with Professor Cameriere and his research team. And of course, there are a scientific program on the 13th and the 14th, where we have 11 speakers from countries, including India, Peru, Japan, Czechoslovakia. And I'm so proud to have the opportunity to offer you this opportunity also online, thanks to Dr. Singh, who has organized the link and the opportunity to attend not the workshops but the symposium online. So if you are able to come to Turin in the north of Italy, you are welcome to register to this symposium physically, or if you cannot come to Turin, you can register online, and we will be very happy to have you inside this event, because it addresses topics related to challenges in human identification from a humanitarian point of view. And for those of you who can come to Turin, there is also the opportunity to present a poster or an oral communication and have it published for free in an open access journal from NDPI called Oral. With that said, I thank again the organization of the International Association of Scientists and Researchers for organizing this event. And I'm here attending the rest of the workshop with the interest of listening to Dr. Untoro and Dr. Pandey.